Art dispenses a world of depth, interpretation, reality, abstract expression, and overall provoking thought. Gender equity is a set of mannerisms, attitudes, and conventions that provide discoveries and possibilities for the lives of individuals. In our definition of gender equity, gender is never detached from other entities that make up a person, such as race, ethnicity, language, or other multiplicities that outline us as simply human beings. Throughout art history, women have been used as symbols to reflect society's behavior, consciousness, and circumstances. Edward Manet created the piece Olympia in 1863. Although one of his most famous pieces, Olympia is also one of Manet's most controversial. It is obvious that Manet's intentions were to be revolutionary, to break free of social norms and become influential with his art. Manet's controversial piece depicts the idea of beauty in a more conventional portrayal versus a typical goddess-themed art. Manet somewhat tests the idea of beauty and poses a challenge for society to overcome. The Gleaners by Jean Francis Millet was created in 1857. Depicting the poor was frowned upon as Millet's depiction of the poor was rejected from the upper class. He aimed to show the realistic stages of the time and took action on representing this role by painting these three women authentically without exaggeration and beautification. They were judged, looked down on, and seen as low class. They worked hard in the field, but rarely were portrayed in his art as the hard workers, as men were primarily subjects in the specific themed art. Millet introduced a fresh and devastating look at contemporary culture. The Child's Bath is an 1893 Impressionist painting by Mary Cassatt that shows us the place of a woman in the domestic realm. This sort of depiction reflects the role of women in society in the 19th century and upholds the belief that women belong in the private sphere of her home, not out in the public sphere of men. This reinforces the idea of what women should do with their lives, taking care of their household and giving comfort to her family. Although during the 19th century women were making slow progress to equality, the idea that women are meant to stick to her gender role was still largely predominant at the time. Jane Avril is a lithographic work, an advertisement poster by French artist Henri de Toulouse-Lautrec, and depicts a celebrated dancer performing at a Parisian cabaret. This work manifests a woman in the public sphere, in this case a cabaret dancer. This type of occupation is frowned upon by others as people thought it was utterly demoralizing. However, he celebrates this woman and her talent in his work while breaking down barriers of gender roles in society. Les Dames of Avignon by Pablo Picasso was created in 1907 as a depiction of 5 naked women in a brothel. Picasso had wanted to display the sexual freedom depicted in a brothel by rejecting traditional values of the time and dismissing current movements. These women were a representation of what was shunned in society at the time, yet they somehow became such a perfect example of what some women were conducting themselves. Initially, it was so despicable to think of women being sexual, let alone to be painted as sexual beings. But Picasso used women as a symbol of what was happening in society. Picasso was clearly revolutionary, as he is still one of the greatest artists known and strived to stand out. He knew that by showing society a truth they didn't want to accept, he would make a point. Woman with Dead Child by Kolowitz was created in 1903 and illustrates a naked woman sitting cross-legged grasping the body of a child. This is an incredibly sorrowful image and shows the love and protection that a mother has for her child. This is another image that shows how caring and loving a woman can be, as well as its portrayal of how hurt and devastated a woman can feel. Supermarket Shopper is a fiberglass sculpture created by Dwayne Hansen in 1970 depicting an overweight woman pushing a shopping cart. This piece is a comment on the excessive consumerism taking over American society. The woman portrayed in this piece continues to buy into this kind of hopeless and ignorant manner. Hansen uses this sad figure of a woman to symbolize the detrimental effects of American consumerism on the general public well-being. Naked Portrait, painted by Freed in 1972, depicts a naked woman sprawled across a bed in an awkward fetus-like position. This piece could be interpreted as a comment on the damaging effects of American advertising, especially on women's self-esteem. The woman in this portrait represents realistic women with a body that isn't artificially colorized or caked on with makeup. It reiterates a body-negative image, one that causes women to go out and spend money trying to change themselves. Freed reveals that this depressive side of American culture via female body language in a context lacking glamour. Allegiance and Wakefulness by Nishat addresses Iran's repression against women. In the U.S., the image of women was depicted in a range of ways that isolated them from the rest of society. Similarly, women in Iran were harassed and treated poorly during and after the Islamic Revolution of 1979. In this photograph, Nishat conceals every part of her body, even her face, to express the restrained lifestyle of women during the time. Kuhn's statue, Pink Panther, was a representation of how he did not agree with the media's depiction of women. In particular, Kuhn's designed his art to draw attention to everything that he believes is wrong with contemporary American society. In the 80s, it was common to see woman as either the American household wife or a prostitute. With the use of pop culture, Kuhn shared the idea of woman in a unique way that combines different elements of a woman's image to create an almost disturbing work of art as a contemplation of false contemporary American society. Women have been an extremely popular theme explored through art and other mediums through time. Thank you for watching!